Hello everybody, this is Glass Coke. Uh, so if you're wondering why I'm doing a week 2 predictions video and I didn't do a week 1, it's because I wasn't really confident in doing a week 1 before, but I thought that I would ask if I should do a week 2, and plenty of people in my Discord said yes, that I should do a video on week 2 predictions. So that is exactly what I am going to do. So for our first game, we have the Los Angeles Chargers against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, very impressive against clearly not that good Cardinals team. Yeah, it looked like they were on a mission. The Cardinals just basically did not have an answer for that offense. And the Chargers, they almost did what they usually do and mess it all up and choke, but they held on to their win against the Las Vegas Raiders 24-19. I would pick the Chargers because usually, like their offense and defense is supposed to be like one of the best, but I feel like the Chiefs are going to win this game because, like I said, they were on a mission, and also like the Chargers were not like they won, but it wasn't really that impressive of a win. They almost blew it at the end, but they held on. So Chiefs 2-0 to start the season. The New England Patriots and Pittsburgh Steelers. For the Patriots, yeah, there was basically no offense except for just like one touchdown. Their defense, I mean, sure, it only gave up 20 points, but it was still not that great, especially in Bill Belichick terms. The Steelers, last week against the Bengals, they were part of like one of the craziest games like I've probably ever seen. So many missed field goals, blown opportunities, like a back and forth. The Steelers were up 17-3, but then, or was it 20 to? I think it was like 20-3 actually. No wait, that was the Texans and Colts. Okay, so it was 17-3. The Steelers were only able to score like 3 more points after that until like the end of the fourth quarter, and the Bengals scored like 17 points in that span. It was a crazy overtime. McPherson missed a couple of kicks. It's because like their holder was gone. Well, their leading long snapper, I should say, not holder. Their long snapper was injured, so they had to have somebody else in, and he was basically trash. And that's kind of why McPherson wasn't really able to make those kicks like he usually does. You gotta get credit to the Steelers for causing all those turnovers, and yet they somehow still almost lost, but they ended up winning. I still feel that the Patriots are going to give the Steelers a little bit of a. I still feel that the Patriots are going to give the Steelers a little bit of a challenge, but I feel like the Steelers are going to start off 2-0 as well as the Chiefs. The Colts and the Jaguars. The Colts tied with the Texans last week, so that's all you need to know really about that game. Also, the fact that they almost fully came back, but then Rodrigo Blankenship missed what could have been the game-winning field goal, and he got cut after that game. So yeah, not really a good start, but I guess they didn't lose, so that's something. The Jaguars, they had a 15-14 lead, and I think they had another lead after that, but they weren't able to hold to either one of those because Carson Wentz was actually good against them. The Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014, but I think that this has to be when the Colts win in Jacksonville for once. So I'm gonna have them win this one. It's probably, I don't think it's gonna be that close, but like maybe like 24 to 14, probably something around that. The Jets and the Browns, I'm not even gonna really waste that much time. The Jets are terrible, and the Browns are at least good enough. I mean, if they were able to win against the Panthers, they for sure can win against the Jets. The Dolphins, they were able to play pretty well against the Patriots. Only held them to 7 points. Their offense was pretty good for a bit. And the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson was really good. If he's able to consistently play that well, then the Ravens will definitely go far this year. Kind of tough for me to really decide on which one of these two teams. On the one hand, Miami has like a lot of good offensive weapons, and on the other hand, the Ravens have a very stacked secondary that could neutralize Miami's targets. I think I'm still going to go with Miami just because last year there was like a blitz that they did like 20 something times in a row that really messed up the Ravens. I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to be the case this year. Maybe they're going to switch it up a little bit, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins for this one and have them start 2-0 as well, and the Ravens will start off 1-1. Texans and Broncos. This shouldn't necessarily be like really hard. Like, I'm pretty sure literally anyone would just go with the Broncos, no thought. But the reason why I'm really hesitant on picking which team to choose is because the Texans did almost win against the Colts, and the Broncos lost against the Seahawks. So, in theory, this should be a close game. In theory. The Texans, they had a 20-3 lead against the Colts, and looked like they were going to pull away, but then they just started choking, and eventually they just settled for a tie in overtime, and yeah, kind of unsatisfactory, but I mean, at least you didn't lose your first game of the season. Then for Russell Wilson's Broncos, the end, like, just that whole game was just terrible decisions, fumbling twice on the goal line. Yeah, it was just a mess for the Broncos. And honestly, I think it's going to continue, at least just for this game. I'm definitely going to get some flack for this, but I'm picking the Texans to win this one. It's going to be like a very close game, probably like the closest game. Well, I'll save these two. These are like the Monday night games, so I'll save those two. I'll save the Titans, Bills, and Vikings and Eagles. I'll save those two for last. Cardinals and Raiders. Well, like I said earlier, the Cardinals were not really that great. They were pretty much trash the entire time. I mean, they did score 21 points, but they had 44 points put on their domes. Then you have the Raiders, which almost came back, but Derek Carr had some turnovers, which is basically par for the course with his reputation for being a little bit inconsistent and turnover prone. I don't really see the Cardinals as a threat to the Raiders right now. I'm going to go with the Raiders. Bengals and Cowboys, yeah, that's just not even a question in my mind. The Cowboys season is, I don't want to say it's basically over right now, but yeah, it's not really looking good. The Cowboys only scored 3 points even when Dak Prescott was in the game. And their defense wasn't too terrible. They only gave up like 19 points, but yeah, they just had no offense whatsoever, and they just completely struggled. While the Bengals were able to come back from a 17-3 deficit and tie the game heading into overtime. They could have won the game in regulation had they made the extra point and it wasn't blocked. So yeah, they definitely blew that game as well, and Joe Burrow had a lot of turnovers. But this one should be a much easier game for the Bengals, so I'm going to take them over the Cowboys. The Buccaneers and the Saints. Now the Saints, on paper, are not as good of a team as they were last season or even 2 seasons ago. And the Saints are... I say the Saints are basically the same. They don't have Teron Armstead, who's on the Dolphins now. But I still feel like they do have a pretty good offense, and their defense is still very much feared across the league. Well, I think so anyways. I do kind of want to pick the Bucks, but the Saints just have their number in the regular season, so I'm just going to have to go with the Saints for this one. The Panthers and the Giants. Now, the Browns, who played against the Panthers last week, were able to get a lot, and I mean a lot of rushing yards against them. And last week, Saquon Barkley had a tremendous game against the Titans, running all over them. It would be very crazy of me to pick the Giants and have them start 2-0, but I don't know, like, if they were able to hold the Titans to just basically only 20 points, and now they're facing against the Panthers, which are basically at this point about the same team, I think they're going to come up with a win here. Washington and Detroit, the Commanders and the Lions. This one's probably the toughest game to choose from so far, because, man, both of these teams had pretty good offenses last week. The Commanders did have just a slightly better defense, but that doesn't really mean anything when you're playing against like the Jaguars and you still gave up 22 points against them. So yeah, it doesn't really make too much of a difference, to be honest. I liked what Carson Wentz was able to do against Jacksonville, and I just feel like he's going to have a really good game again against the Lions. So I feel like they're gonna start off 2-0. I feel like it's gonna be another close game, like the Lions had with the Eagles last week with that 38-35. Next game, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother. Just because the Rams lost doesn't mean that they're just gonna go on a complete downfall right now. I mean, they'll have their bounce back game. They're probably just in a tiny hangover, but they'll probably recover. Now the Seahawks and the 49ers. Now, my brain is telling me to pick the 49ers, but I can't pick either of these teams. I'm going to have to go with a tie. I think this is going to be the second tie of the season. The reason is because the Seahawks defense is still pretty good, in my opinion. They were able to hold the Broncos to only 16 points and force a couple of very important goal line fumbles. And Trey Lance is just not really that great so far for San Francisco. Maybe they'll probably have to start having Debo be more involved with like the rushing game or something. And I think Geno Smith is going to be decent. So that's why I'm picking a tie right there. Probably the only person that has even picked a tie in any prediction. This game, yeah, that's pretty easy. Just because the Bears won doesn't mean that they're all of a sudden going to be a playoff team. The Packers played against a really tough Vikings team, and now they're going to be playing against the Bears, which Aaron Rodgers owns in a sort of way. Okay, now the two Monday night football games, the Titans and the Bills. While I do like the possibility, or at least the scenario of Derrick Henry running over the Bills are just a much more complete team. Like, no matter what way you look at it, their offense, their defense, their special teams. I mean, Randy Bullock for the Titans just completely choked and missed a very important kick. So yeah, the Bills just have everything going for them. The Vikings and the Eagles. So for the Vikings and the Eagles, the Vikings, they beat Green Bay 23-7. Kevin O'Connell, first game as a coach, did pretty much anything that, well, he basically did what he was supposed to do, and he's leading a new era of Vikings football, and so far it looks very promising, but they'll have to keep that up against the Eagles. Now the Eagles, their rushing game is the best rushing game in all of football. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to really... It could be neutralized by Minnesota, and they're going to have to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, which is not really too great of an idea for Eagles fans anyways. I'm going to have to go with the Vikings because I feel that their passing game is better. If Dalvin Cook can get a really good game, then that'll be fantastic for them. And yeah, the Vikings are going to start off 2-0. The Packers are 1-1. Bears are 1-1. Lions are 0-2. It should still be a very, very close race throughout the whole season for the NFC North, I believe. And the Eagles will fall in this game and be 1-1, while the Giants and Commanders are 2-0 and the Cowboys are 0-2. So those are my Week 2 NFL predictions. Let me know how you thought of the video, some things that I probably missed, or probably your own predictions in the comments. This is like my first time doing it, so of course it's not going to be that great, but I just thought that like doing it on this side, like screen recording, would look better than if I showed my face. So yeah, that'll be pretty much it. This is Last Coke. Please leave a like and subscribe and comment if you want to. And until next time, when the next upload happens, peace.